I put this big bet on that it would get worse forever. And I was Citibank's most profitable trader in the world that year. And I made them just over $35 million.
You made them $35 million. You eventually decide to leave Citibank.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, I think that's an interesting question, right? You know, in the sense that I've just explained to you what happened, which is I made a ton of money by betting on the collapse of Western society.
But how do you disagree with those opinions?
Listen, Daniel's a businessman. He's obviously a very successful businessman. You know, I've not been anywhere. I'm not a businessman. I'm not going to pretend to be a businessman. I'm an economist. I make money by being right in the economy. Daniel's a good businessman, and I'm right on the economy. You know, it's as simple as that, basically. You know, I'm not a good businessman, but I've got 15 years of being right on this, on the economy. And look, I know you're probably a wealthy man. You probably don't want to pay high taxes. You probably don't want your kids to pay high taxes. But we exist in an economy where wealth is being extracted out of the middle class, out of the working class, very, very rapidly. It's benefiting people like the three of us at this table. It will benefit our kids. You know, our kids will be rich, their kids will be poor. And I just think we should be honest with them. Capitalism's finished. We won. Well done, Stephen. Well done, Daniel. Well done, Gary. It's over now. Our kids will be rich, their kids will be poor. They'll pay the taxes. We won't pay the taxes. We'll avoid it. I'll make money betting on it year after year. Why are we lying to them? Why are we lying to them?
Yeah, I think that's an overly simplified view of things.
It's an overly simplified view of things that has made me a multimillionaire.
Yeah, well, look, entrepreneurs take bets on the economy as well. We take bets differently. When we start a company, we're betting on how the economy
Do you think the average
would be.
British and American worker at the 50th percentile, do you think their kids will be richer than they are?
It depends if we have economic freedom or not, right? We're going to have a split test on this.
Do you think we will?
Right. We're going to have a split test. We're going to have, the UK seems like we're going to have more taxes, more regulations, and it seems like the US is going to have less taxes and less regulations. Here's what I've noticed. I've noticed that places like Singapore that have small governments have got widespread affluence. There's not a lot of poverty in Singapore.
Yeah, except for the cleaners living in the closet.
Look,
but we don't count them in the statistics, just like we don't count our viewers.
That's not widespread in Singapore.
Well, there's a lot of people. I've seen them in the closets. I've seen them in the closets.
There are some,
but they're not Singaporeans.
Well, also
we only count the rich ones. It's so amazing to me for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's like, wow, like this is a big thing that we as a society should understand, and like we're getting it wrong. But secondly, if all of the best guys in the world are getting this wrong, then if I can figure this out, I can make a ton of money here.
Gary, how much money did you make for Citibank at the age of 24 years old?
That year, 2011, I put this big bet on that it would get worse forever. And I was Citibank's most profitable trader in the world that year. And I made them just over $35 million.
You made them $35 million. You eventually decide to leave Citibank.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, I think that's an interesting question, right? You know, in the sense that I've just explained to you what happened, which is I made a ton of money by betting on the collapse of Western society. I did it in 2011. I did it again in 2012. I would prefer for it not to collapse, Stephen. And I'm trying to stop it from collapsing.
When you say it collapsing, what exactly are you referring to that you don't want to collapse?
So you born in Botswana, right?
Yeah.
You still have family there?
I've got family in Nigeria, which is where my family are from. I was born in Botswana because we were visiting there, but
okay.
Got family in Africa.
Do you go to Nigeria much?
I've got home in Cape Town in South Africa, so I see it's a great place if you want to see inequality.
I think there is a naivety in this country, in places like the US, that the kind of inequality, the kind of broad poverty that you see in places like South Africa, in places like Nigeria, in places like India, can't happen here.
Look, it corresponds with a new tax that we brought in, which was we ended the non-dom scheme. So the non-dom scheme basically said if you're living in the UK, but you've got businesses all over the world, then we only tax you on what you've got in the UK. And if you die in the UK, we'll only tax you on your UK assets for inheritance tax if you're a non-dom. But if you die in the UK and you've got wealth in India, once that non-dom scheme ended, they basically said, we will tax you on everything globally. If you're if you're a tax resident in the UK, everything you've got globally, we want 40% of it. So unfortunately, every wealth manager contacted their clients and said, you can't stay here. You're gonna have to get out. It's gotten really bad. 1,000 people a month are leaving, and in the UK, 1% of people pay 30% of the taxes, 10% of people pay 60% of the taxes. And you imagine if we're sitting out at dinner and there's 10 of us out to dinner, and one person says, hey, I've got this, I'll get 60% of the bill tonight. We say to them, no, it should be 70%, it should be 80%. And they say, you know what, I'll get up and leave. So they leave, everyone else's bill just doubled. So what's gonna happen is if we drive the millionaires out of this country, every ordinary normal person who pays 10 grand a year in tax will now have to pay 20 grand a year in taxes.
So the reason they left is because we used to allow them to not pay tax. And
On their global incomes, on their global
So isn't it a bit
businesses.
more like if we were 10 of us at dinner and there was one guy who came to dinner on the condition he wouldn't pay, then leaves? Because these guys weren't paying tax anyway. If the reason they left is because they weren't paying tax.
It's like saying, hey, I'll pay 60% of this table, and they say at the table, hey, wait a second, we also want you to pay for everything that's happening at other restaurants as well.
Isn't it a bit more like these guys
And we're stretching
were
the
here
analogy.
on a condition? You yourself said
No, you're 100%
the
right.
reason why
Yeah.
they left is because we let them live here on the
taxes-
condition that they didn't have to pay taxes.
On their global, taxes matter, right? So why is everyone going to Dubai? Dubai, they're going there because there's no tax.
These guys, they live in Dubai, their money comes from the West. They are making money from the West, while your average Western, ordinary person watching this show now cannot afford to buy a house, cannot afford to have a family. We can tax those revenues at the point of sale.
That's
Why
called a
do we
consum-
allow
it's called
these
a cons-
guys?
It's called a consumption tax.
No, it's not. It's a tax on, tax on profits.
You
It's
just
not
said,
a tax on consumption.
You just said at point of sale, which means it's a
Yeah,
consumption tax.
based on the profits. You look at how much profit
Well,
they
that's
have,
not- that's
and
not a
then you work
consumption
out
tax.
where the profits go. Exactly, it's not a
Okay.
consumption tax, like I'm saying.
So if you tax profits,
Yeah.
right, then those profits have to accumulate in that country. And because of the digital ecosystem that we now have, the world we now live in, I can lease the database off of my company in Luxembourg. I can license
Okay.
license my logo from a
I
company.
understand how profit shifting works.
Go on.
Okay,
Have you
so
noted-
listen, these guys are not Gandalf. You just say, we don't accept profit shifting. We don't need to accept profit shifting. China does not accept profit shifting. We did not accept profit shifting 50 years ago. We do not have to accept profit shifting. But you have a government class who are extremely wealthy and a media class who are extremely wealthy saying it's impossible to tax rich people.
by the
And I would
way-
like to say, I will agree 100%. It is difficult to tax rich people.
Yeah.
It is very, very, very difficult to tax rich
So
people.
the difference-
I don't come here saying I want to tax rich people because it's easy. I know it's hard. I know probably I'm going to lose. I know our viewers' kids will live in desperate poverty. I know that. I do this because it is hard. If we are a country which says to ourselves, we don't try and do things which are necessary to keep our kids out of poverty because they are hard, then our kids will live in poverty. I don't need to be here. I'm a multimillionaire just like you. I could be in the Philippines drinking pina coladas. I come in here because I come from a poor background and it's ordinary families like my family, like the kids I grew up with, whose kids are gonna be in poverty. It's difficult, but it is necessary. Sometimes we have to do things not because they're easy, but because they are hard. That is what makes a rich country rich, and that is what protects ordinary people. Listen, our grandparents lived in poverty. Did they say, let's not change it because it's hard? No, they didn't. They fought and they demanded healthcare, education, housing, food, and they got it. They got it.
So you
That's
think
why
we're
my
not demanding
parents
enough?
could live a good quality life. They got those things. They got those things, and they were aware that in order to do that, you could not allow the super rich who have been living lives of luxury for hundreds and hundreds of years to eat everything while ordinary families couldn't afford to feed their kids. I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult. And I know I'm probably going to lose. I know that. I know I'm probably going to lose, and that means our viewers will be poor. But I do it anyway because I do not want this country that I grew up in to fall into desperate poverty. Okay, so I guess we've sorted it then. All of our viewers need to do is go and buy Dan's book, become an entrepreneur and become a millionaire. It's that easy. Why weren't you guys doing it to begin with? They're idiots. The viewers are idiots. They should be just being more entrepreneurial. It's as simple as that. More entrepreneurial, start a business. Listen, I come from East London, okay? My friends can't feed their kids, okay? And if it was as simple as going out and being an entrepreneur, I can bet you they would do it. I can bet you they would do it. I'm sick of multimillionaires telling kids who can't afford to turn the heating on, you just need to be more entrepreneurial. It's sick, Dan, it's sick. But this gives people mental illness. It gives people mental illness. Tell them the truth, okay? We, your older generation, we took the opportunities and now it is almost impossible to get out of poverty. And don't just stand up there and wave, your millions of pounds in front of them and say, if you were entrepreneurial like me, you could do it, you could have it. Because it's sick, because they can't. They can't feed their kids, Dan. They can't turn the heating on. Don't tell them to be more entrepreneurial. Fix the system that drives more and more and more of them into poverty every generation.
Very strange that you think it would be easier to fix the entire global economic system than to start a business and fix your own personal economics. The thing that I know that gives people mental health issues is feeling that they have no agency in their life, that they can't do anything. Your video where you talk about if you don't have a rich dad, you're screwed. There's no such thing as meritocracy. You're never going to be successful. To me, if I had have come across your content at 19, 20 years old, I would have been screwed. I'm so glad that I came across people who said, Daniel, you weren't born into a rich family. You don't have any bank of mum and dad, but it's cheap and easier than ever to start a business. Start by working for someone who's got a business, then figure out what's your opportunity. And there's a way, there is a way. I've actually worked with a lot of teenagers from poor backgrounds. And one of the things we do is we tell them, if it's possible for someone else, it is possible for you. I also worked in rural Uganda. Here's what I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to achieve the people who have ambition, who can go for it, are incentivized to do it and incentivized to build jobs and build companies.
And
that
what
will
about the
employ
ones that
other
just
people.
want to work hard and have a good family and take care of them and have a home and be able to turn the heating on and be able to have financial security?
They need to work for a business, don't they?
They need to work for you?
Yeah. Pardon?
They need to work for
They
you?
would need to work for a business, some business, right? If someone doesn't create that business, then where do they work for? We now have, by the way, 11% of working age people are now declared too sick to work, right? We have a huge problem in the UK. We also have 25% of people who are working age don't work. It's 1 in 7 men don't work at all.
Do you think they're lazy, Dan?
I think the system is collapsing.
Do you think
the system is
the
changing.
average British American
Here's
is
what
not
I
working
think.
is lazy?
What I think is happening is that the technology companies are totally transforming and disrupting everything. And what happened is around the post-war era, we had good jobs. We had, you could work in a local thing. What's happening now is that jobs are going to the Philippines. They're going to, technology does 3 things. It makes jobs more simple, which makes them replaceable. It makes jobs global, where you can move them to anywhere else. And then ultimately it automates the job altogether and gets rid of it through code and software. And what's really going on in the last, especially 5 years since the pandemic, is technology has decimated the existing systems that we all relied upon when we grew up. And when I say the education system isn't really working, it's still pretending that there are office jobs available for people when they graduate. And it's still pretending that there's like 1950s scenarios available, when actually my kids are going to be disrupted by AI. Everyone's kids are going to be disrupted by AI. These sorts of things are the things that really we also need to be talking about.